Ndizi TV. Ubwansu bw'Omugusii.
Magoro benki ya umwanya nyorobna sensemo ya Facebook na bukondera gutunyara wetera Ndizi TV News Digital asensemo ya YouTube tunyara wetera Ndizi TV News na wegase website yetu na bokoya somo wetera www.ndizitv.net ero togendere kusanga sobwamo. Eritreane EVERLYENE OSERO uritokubatira na sensemo imanyiririo nigakuru kwa LYDIA MOSE na boigo Sara mumanyi nero kwene kyabuna kibicha neryo yicha wekere asenchira yabene gukwarira ntuchaka AMAYIA CHINSA IKOMI asenchira ere yobwenge wasumurai wense Dr. William Samuel Ruto agendrete netaro yaye ensemo ya South Korea asumusangirekano bugo kwanira obwamate gati ya Korea na boigo orogonkorwa Afrika gukwana asege karokeri Korea rero Ruto nigo atebirubna eurogongorwa Afrika gose CHINSA ejo kirase asorogongorwa Afrika nigo kirase ribagariya ryogotinya okobwaterana asogokinya CHINSA mo ao gati abo ensemo yobonchoreria na boigo akurwa mbaga yemeremo asabasae asenchire moyo kwene kyabuna babere bagosira emeroberio yogokinya uchumi oborendi bwendagera omorembe na boigo oborendi obochenu negati ya rutabere gagoteba abwente kwewa bagari tangani ase okumorekerewa eriyo gutanga kurwase amakongo yaberega kwenekiwa ase gikegetambe.
Despite these gains, African nations continue to struggle against a rising multitude of complex interrelated challenges which not only diminish our capacity to develop in accordance with our potential, they also actively undermine our investment and achievements. They include an escalated debt crisis, low access to development resources in our international financial markets, high costs of this limited financing, heightened vulnerability to fluctuations in global economy, including inflation, supply chain disruptions, which make the prices of essential goods beyond reach of many. The vision of the Korea-Africa Summit is to bring the inspiring precedent of the miracle of the Han River to bear on Africa's potential to generate shared prosperity for present and future generations. I therefore look forward with great anticipation to engaging in discussions focusing on the following areas. The first critical issue with high development potential and requiring attention is food security. Africa's rich natural resources and growing and increasing youth skilled population present a significant opportunity for growth in agriculture, industry, and trade. I applaud Korea's willingness to collaborate with Africa in enhancing food production. This support is vital, and when expanded to include sharing of cutting-edge agricultural technology and expertise, will be transformative.
Omukonyi bumurai bwense rigabiga shawa nigabaga kwarganiana kora omoroberio okaberebwo kubwaterana kwa magendro gose Second Development Partnership Forum asenga ya CHINSA mo chia Karen ime yomucho Nairobi okona chinga kiecho gashawa nigabaka goteba buna Kenya nigegendrete koba asagia kubwatkana nuko bwaterana ne CHINSA mo au ase ogokine miroberio au ya magendro nigoboigo abaga kwenekia buna amaunchori yaberega korokana korege getagani kyabete kego korekana asaine kyabuna nigo babegete mutwe okobwaterana nebyombe au ase ogokore misangirikano asobonge ryokoriya enchera yogoskia Kenya bosiona bego koreta amagendero.
Kenya has continued to position itself as a thought leader in calling for structuring of the global financial systems in favor of developing countries. Kenya's participation and robust engagement in the global financial conversation has been significant. As part of the determination in driving this discourse, We recently hosted the International Development Association Africa Heads of State Summit and the African Development Bank annual meetings. In such engagements, our voice underscores Kenya's proactive role in shaping global financial policies and practices, which are aimed at ensuring that our people thrive economically, socially, and politically. We remain dedicated to ensuring that our voice is heard and that we contribute meaningfully to the global financial discourse. During the first DPF, we launched the revamped Development Coordination Roadmap. This new framework has been instrumental in enhancing our engagement with the development partners, fostering better coordination, and ensuring that our collective efforts yield tangible results. One of the resolutions was to hold these high-level forums at least twice a year. Today, we gather in fulfillment of that commitment. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since our last meeting, there have been changes and remarkable progress in our re-energized engagement framework. For instance, there has been a change in the stewardship of the DPF.
Omutenilio munene bw'obukoreri bwa serikali Felix Gusii niga agenderete kwegerera obukoreri anene bwa serikali ya Kenya Kwanza isi oburayi bwa Dr. William Samoei Ruto asekeria ruro kubore ochase chinsemo na boigo abarayi bonsi gochamo na kubwatirana na gutumika libagerio asogoikirania ali agenderete na koinekia buna enibo ya serikali yabere ke gutumika asenchira ebwenderete erio gokonya abananchi bonsi okwana chingaki chioko achingaki abagakora ogochakiwa bene ku Muruberio State Corporation Advisory Committee nigo koske yabere gagoteba buna aseri bagari ayo murayibwense nigatere buna eserikali goika ebe asobokoreri asobu yabwo koreta amagendero.
As we are adjusting, amending areas that may not necessarily, that may bring some few conflicts here and there, we want also to see an implementation in areas that are not having any conflict. So the document that you are officially receiving today is a document that supersedes all those other documents that have been flying around since 2004. Secondly, His Excellency the President has directed that he wants to see a functioning government. A government that is coherent, a government that consoles, a government that its institutions are working together. And there is no better example than the people you see in front of you. The office of Deputy President is represented by the Chief of Staff. The office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary is represented by the Chief of Staff. And therefore, if the top are working as one and are pushing the agenda with the same speed, reading from the same page, I expect all of us, wherever we are, to ensure that we work as one government that aims at delivering.
Nakubwatkana nobongenerio bwaberu bokoinekiwa ase amangana yendemero nigo committee yebunke igoro yenderemo yabeire yendemero babere bagotwara egeikaro eriogo kwanera igoro yogokora obongainereria bwobogori bwamaremo korwase chikampani imeyense ya Kenya ningana yabetike wekiwa bosio bwebunke amo nomobunke okirinyaga Central Gashoki Gitari asekirenga kyaekere koinekia buna amachika maikiranu aberega kwa chingaki chobogori bwendemero gati yabo korikiwa bene kubwato kwa wet license nabo igo kwenekia muna baria bonsi baganitie kugora amaremo babere bakobwatia amachiko ali abwenerete ningana nona nabo yabirege kogokerwa ne gati abachumbe abaterine nenchiremo yogotoria abakenya banke abagenderete gochandika asibaterina nigo barachie koyegereria asobo imena kwenekia buna yaberege kuruge gokora emeremo asokwenekia buna bwasio kubwabere bokorokana asamangana yobogori bwa marimo.
Singling out a county like Kiambu, we have of about more than 500 cases with DCI of fraudulent rad buying companies. So the import of this was to try to tame them and register and license them. So in the bill, the principal object, now that's number 2 on the principal object of the proposal is to amend the RAD Act 2012 to provide registration, licensing, and regulation of RAD dealing entities in order to protect the interested person buying from such companies.
From the clauses that he mentioned here, I believe it holds water, and we're looking forward to interrogate further on the same.
We have seen a lot of advertisement going on, even in yesterday dailies, that there's some land which is being here somewhere, and you may end up seeing that these are nini bahari ambayo imeenda shamba iko hapo na hakuna kitu. So please go ahead.
Many of us have been affected, actually. They've been affected, and there are so many Kenyans. Like even these constructions of riparian land, you might find that the guys have been conned, and that's why they find themselves there. We have this former member of parliament, a very good friend to Robi, called Manoti. You know, is the Langata property. They demolished that big building, and
Omonene bwaba waziri meyense ya Kenya yubigoro muwaziri wa mangana ye CHINSA Chescom Salam David niga bakawikirana asege ikaro ikikyabaretamo abaseneta kurwase chi county au ero kwanera chinchera barabe bagukinya obokoreri ase serikali chi county okwana chinga kyecho musala niga bagakuriya irayo gocyakobwaterana asoko ene kyabuna obokoreri ase county wabere bokorwewa asenchera ebwenerete asenonya nabo abagakuru kubole ocyasaba seneta kwene kyabunanku bwaterana bale asokurwania amangana yobukurumi imeyense ya Kenya.
That contains a total of 772 initiatives comprising of 203 policy initiatives, 244 legislative initiatives, 325 statutory instruments. This is the government's legislative agenda for the next 5 years. Now, of course, we are counting down. That contains a total of 772 initiatives comprising of 203 policy initiatives, 244 legislative initiatives, 325 statutory instruments. This is the government's legislative agenda for the next 5 years. Now, of course, we are counting down. A mechanism can then be put through so that corruption prevention committees from all counties, whether Vihiga, Bungoma, Meru, Samburu, wherever, that there's a format of these reports reaching the Senate, so that they can be deliberated and one can try and focus and see whether really there's a serious
Omunya kerogo bwe committee osewe committee yobochanu asebunke ye Senate Muthomi Njoki nigo amochiriye okugania gwikiraniwa ogoseko iranigwa emeroberu ya sector yobochanu ase serikali ne askiri atairum na serikali church county nigo chigenderete gwikirania emirimo yabo asenchera ebwenerete okwana chinga kyecho Muthomi nigabaga komochia bali bagenderete kogose serikali church county asogate babuna nigo basinyirwe wetenenera anene ase okugora nabo igo kwenanwa kwa mariogo ase chinyagitari.
For the last 3 days, we have seen a deliberate attempt by CHINSA, the national government and their proponents to try and paint the counties as having been unable to meet their debt obligation as far as drug supply are concerned in CHINSA. Allow me to state the following facts. For one, the counties usually pay their debts to CHINSA depending on the age of the debt And it's also important to note that there is no county that usually buys from CHINSA upfront. There's a possibility that we are trying to propagate this narrative that the Council of Governors or the counties have been unable to manage the health sector. The biggest problem is debts owed to suppliers, which have not been met because of the fact that the Treasury owes the counties 3 months worth of disbursement.
Mwanchu muri bano roboti ona rotoikia omorio bwa AMAYIA ya CHINSA ikumia senchira erejo bwege kurinda munenda mangino yanyora senchira yubikiranu gekuragense mo na baigo CHINSA isato yandra kubati miroverionsi ya Ndizi TV asensemo ya Facebook otanyaro wetera Ndizi TV News Digital asensemo ya YouTube Ndizi TV News na baigase website ito na bokoja soma wetera www.ndizitv.net ere togendere gusanga asubwamo eretirane EVERLYENE OSERO ara mumanyinero ene kyachibichaneri ogicha wikera senchira bene noreto botera nasense muyimanyerero nigakoro kwa LYDIA musengo kuganeria obuligere buro bya semerubere kubwatya nabaigo emagoroba erentoereru